gesture of friendly excitement. But for a dog, it signals conflicting emotions, happiness and apprehension.
Are you hungry?
They read our signals too. A change in the woman's facial expression and the dog's tail drops, indicating fear.
Set.
In dog terms, it's greeting the dominant member of its pack, a moment always tinged with uncertainty. Dog wants to move away and stay close at the same time. Tail wagging first appears in puppies at about 6 weeks, when the litter is just sorting out its own hierarchy. There's only so much of mom to go around, and if a puppy wants to eat, it has to jostle up against some of the more dominant pups. The mixed feelings of hunger and fear cause the first tentative round of tail wagging. Another behavior we often misinterpret happens when we take the dog out for a walk. It's not that the dogs are naturally hostile to each other, but the leash keeps them from socializing and signaling one another normally. They may also be feeling protective of their masters. Freedom makes life a little easier. Their greeting ceremonies may seem rude to us, but they're just a dog's way of saying hi there. In a wolf pack, every individual knows its rank, with one dominant male at the top. They may appear to be milling around randomly, but they're actually using a complicated communication system to remind one another of who's who. Body language and complex vocal signals tell the story. Ears held down means I'm submissive. Ears, head, and tail held high are the marks of a dominant wolf. Our domestic dogs speak this same language to us. They also speak another language we humans could probably do without. The language of smell. Every dog has a personal scent, transmitted mainly from its anal glands. Vigorous tail wagging squeezes these glands and disperses the scent, a bit like spraying different perfume samples in the air. When we see a dog scratching the ground, we assume it's trying to cover its droppings. On the contrary, it's actually using the sweat glands between its toes to add its distinctive mark. With our deficient human noses, we can't detect the dog's identifying odors. But they can detect much more than mere identity. Scent marking can also convey messages about sexual condition. It's how male dogs know to show up when a female's in heat. Male dogs cock their legs to deposit their scent messages at nose level, where other dogs are sure to notice. A dog sniffing around the neighborhood conjures up Mac and Annie, Daphne and Pete, all from these chemical calling cards. Understanding how dogs communicate also helps us, and them, recognize the difference between a game and a fight. One dog says, "Let's play," to another by lowering the front half of its body and wagging its tail. It's called a play bow. Dogs understand the meaning of make-believe. Barking is probably the most familiar way dogs communicate, and the least understood. In the United States alone, there are about 50 million dogs. We give them warm, comfortable housing and more food than they probably need. So what is there to bark about? In the wild, wolves howl to keep in contact and synchronize movement of the pack when they're scattered. A dog may howl in roughly the same way when its human pack leaves it home alone. Howling is a contact signal, a way of saying, "Where are you? Let's get together." But wolves also sometimes howl when they're together. Werner Freund keeps a tame pack of wolves and gets them started. The message is territorial. We're here together. We like it. Stay away. The wolves have their own hierarchy, as they constantly remind one another. But they include Freund as the top dog in their pack. They communicate with him in the language of wolf society. Even the dominant wolf accepts Freund as the pack leader. Licking Freund's face is a "feed me" gesture left over from his puppy days. It's meant to appease a superior animal. Freund is careful to follow the social rules of the pack. If he refuses to be licked, the hierarchy embodied in the wolf's act of submission could fall apart. Communicating with another species is always a delicate process. Don McCaig is a trainer of herding dogs. It takes a special understanding on both sides for a farmer and his dogs to work together. Add in the sheep with their own language, and the level of trust is almost miraculous.
There's no pleasure I can give them that's greater than letting them work sheep. And when they do this, they are happy dogs. People think that when you're training a dog or working with a dog, then you're just telling the dog what to do, and it's not true. So the dog's got to make all kinds of decisions on its own. They're not robots. They're thinking beings. And when you're working with them, it's sort of like, it's a collaboration is the best word. Go out to the right, and the dog will go out, and sometimes the dog will say, well, you know, these sheep don't want to go that way, and if you keep me going this in the direction you just sent me, we're going to get in big trouble. And so the dog is talking to you at the same time.
Remarkably, the farmer gives his commands in a language that's neither human nor canine, and the dog responds.
The most powerful command you can put on a dog is the dog's name. Silk! That'll do, Silky. That's a good girl. That's a good girl.
No two dogs are the same.
Yes.
Every dog has a different personality.
Yes.
They're not really pet dogs. They're working dogs. Companions I'll accept, but they're not pets, because pets that says that we've got all the power and all the authority, and we don't. That makes it too much one way. I mean, we're companions. When it's good, when you're focused and the dog is focused, you don't see anything else in the world. It's also beautiful. It's more like dance.
The sheepdog uses stalking behavior inherited from its wild ancestors. It's been bred to mimic the hunt without the kill.
Coming up, a sheepdog or a dog in sheep's clothing when Wild Discovery continues.
Everything about our domestic dogs, the way they play, hunt, and communicate, comes directly from their wolf ancestors. We've just tinkered with the basic design a bit to emphasize traits we consider useful. Selective breeding has turned the wolf into the Great Dane and other more exotic breeds. We did it without knowing anything about genetics. We just knew which dogs to breed if we wanted upright ears, or impressive size, or a deadly bite, or even just wrinkled skin. We could change dogs into almost any shape we wanted. We bred Irish setters as bird hunters, with long legs and a keen nose. And often we inbred them, causing hidden problems. Bassets needed short legs to hunt in dense cover. Sometimes we got carried away with the idea. The idea of breeding dogs for looks alone is relatively new. In the past, we bred them mostly to help us hunt game, like the wild boar in Italy. The boar doesn't look too dangerous, but in dense forest, it can be a deadly adversary. The human pack leader gives commands and the dogs understand just what they need to do. The instinct for the chase is rooted in their biology. Letting humans take the rewards may seem odd. But it's not so different from subordinate wolves letting dominant individuals feed first at a kill. Dogs are so adaptable that they'll actually protect animals their wolf ancestors gladly hunt. There's no shepherd around to make the Maremma sheepdog obey orders. Just some strangers out for a hike. But the dog's been bred and trained to take the job of guarding sheep in earnest. These sheepdogs maintain a kind of moving, defensive perimeter. As the herd moves, they adjust this invisible boundary, and no one, especially not their cousins, the wolves, can cross it. Breeding has given the dogs a temperament for this work, but it takes training too. The puppies actually live with the herd and come to think of themselves as sheep. They're bred to resemble the sheep in size and color. The sheep become their pack. And the dogs guard their old prey like family. Training a dog to herd animals, not just guard them, takes a whole different approach. The trainer keeps a young border collie entirely separate from the animals it will herd. The collie's ability to move its flock depends on its predatory instinct for stalking. At first, puppies just want to play with mom. But watching her work, they start to get the idea. What's going on with both Maremma sheepdogs and border collies is incredibly complicated. I mean, we are talking to a dog that imagines it's a sheep. Or is it a wolf who somehow forgot how to kill? And how do you say, turn left in goose talk?
Coming up, this dog's stuck in the doghouse, but good training could make him a prized pet when Wild Discovery returns.
Emperors and kings bred their dogs mainly to be good hunters. But they got the idea that dogs should be pretty, too. Fashionable women bred dogs to be cute and in convenient lap-size packages. A lap dog may also have been useful for diverting the owner's fleas. Breeders emphasized juvenile traits, like big eyes. They bred some dogs for shortened noses, even though it could impair breathing. They bred other dogs for long, flowing hair at the expense of movement. Breeding distorted the original wolf skull into amazingly varied shapes. In the show ring, we still ask dogs to conform to our unusual notions of beauty. And we clearly love them for it. But it sometimes comes at considerable expense to the dog. When a dog doesn't meet our standards, or when it becomes inconvenient, we may just get rid of it. Every year in the United States, animal shelters are forced to euthanize millions of unwanted dogs. The problem is often a failure to communicate. But a family with the patience to learn can still save one of these dogs and make it their best friend.
Okay. And thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dog trainer Brian Kilcommons works with shelters to train dogs and help get them adopted.
Many people have the perception that shelter dogs are damaged goods. And the thing is the dogs aren't damaged goods. The way they've been treated is where the damage lies.
The people who sent this dog to the pound said she was too hard to handle.
Hey, hi. It's not hard to train a dog, whether it's a shelter dog or just a regular dog that you get. It's really developing a new skill. It's initially the dog what I would call hyperactive or anxious because it doesn't know what the rules are. They want somebody who's going to be very clear with their directions, and when they are followed, they get praised for it.
Girl, let's go. Good girl. Very good. Good girl. Wait. Good. Very good. Down.
And you see a metamorphosis of the true dog's nature coming out.
Stay. Good girl. Very
Dogs really
good
get up
girl.
every morning wanting to please us. Our job is really teaching them how to do that. This dog breaks my heart. And the reason why is she's been so abused. You know, yelling and hitting. They adopted her and they returned her due to behavior problems. Hitting and yelling is anger. It's not training. And if you look at her, girl, dogs don't have that reflex unless they've been whacked and they've been hurt.
Down. Good girl. Good.
Wait. Good girl.
Cringing is part of the body language of wolves, too. It's a way of deflecting aggression. But there are better ways for a dog to communicate. And one short session can start to make the difference.
I know. Okay. Good.
A little patience and trust between the two species can save their lives. And ours.
Girl, down. Good girl. Very good. Very good. Good girl.
Most dogs can be
Good.
trained easily within
Good.
a matter of minutes. The
Terrific.
dog isn't the
Yeah.
problem, it's the people.
Yeah.
But you can see how she's trying to bond and she's just looking for a person to hook up into.
Sit. All the way. Good girl.
I mean, there are millions of dogs like this that if they're taken and placed in the appropriate home with responsible owners, they can take something like Girl and turn it into a piece of gold. Girl, down. This dog is really difficult.
Oh, girl. Because I'm so good.
Yes, I'm so good.
Coming up, caught in the act, this vandal suffers from separation anxiety. Find out how experts help this pet and its owner next. Wild Discovery.
George Salpiego lost his sight at the age of 40.
I can remember thinking that's it. My life is over. I'm not going to be any use to anybody. I'm not going to be able to do anything that I once did.
But all that changed on a momentous day when George took his first walk with his new seeing eye dog, Carl.
What I decided I was going to do is that I was going to walk from my wife's office to my parents' house. Now understand, this is a town that I grew up in, so I knew every street corner, I knew every inch of the walk. And it was about a 1.5 mile walk, but I felt, without a doubt, with the training that I had just received, that I could do it, so I was very confident. We were to work as a team. Good boy. Stay. Come forward. His job was to keep me safe. My job was to navigate us there correctly. And I can remember walking down the street and all of a sudden hearing to my right a very, very, very large vehicle pass by. I don't know if it was a school bus or a truck, but I got to tell you, it felt like that vehicle was probably ready to come right over the top of us. And I can remember just standing there in total fear because I actually lost my orientation. So in my mind, I instantly started to think, okay, I have to turn around now and I have to get back to my wife's office, back where it's safe. I wasn't sure which way backwards was anymore because I got so overcome with fear. I can remember my trainer saying to me, George, whenever you reach a point that you're confused or you think that you're very scared and you don't think you can make it, he says, I want you to hold this one thought in your mind. Always trust the dog. He'll never let you down. And I can remember leaning over and looking down at my dog, Carl, and saying, Carl, what do you think? Do you think we can make it? He picked his head up and he looked at me and licked me on the face. And I took that as a yes. And my confidence came back. I stood up, I picked up the harness, I gave him the command to go forward, and our walk started again. Continuing our walk down, we'd go through some more minor street crossings, and we would come to the second part that my confidence would get shaken again. A very busy intersection and an unusually very wide section of street. I listened, I heard that car start to take off, and I gave Carl the command to go forward. And all of a sudden, Carl stopped. He literally wrapped himself around my front legs in a U-shaped form and pushed me backwards. And as I was falling backwards, I heard a car go by that had just ran a red light. And I can remember thinking to myself, if I had been traveling with a white cane, I think I would have gotten killed, and I don't think I'd be here today talking. And we'd continue to cross the street then, and we'd come to this next little tiny street called Brook Street. And I knew, without a doubt, that 70 feet on my left would be the gate of my parents' front yard. I started to tell Carl, find left inside. And I'd repeat it twice because I was a little bit nervous. But then I started to think to myself, as the indecision came back in my mind, my God, we've gone too far. I was just about ready to tell him to halt. And all of a sudden, he banked very hard to the left, picked up his head, and put his nose on the gate of my parents' front yard. To me, I wasn't just opening the gate, but I was opening a doorway to what was going to be a new life. And the first thing that I could think to do was to drop to my knees and wrap my arms around this dog and thank God for this incredible gift that he had given me. He's my eyes. He's my best friend. He's my companion. He is just a miracle in my life.
The bond between dog and owner is sometimes a problem.
What a good catch! You caught it! Come on! Good girl.
We're companions. You know, we like to go to the park together. We like to take walks together. She's fun. She's funny. Her expressions, things that she does. She's my best friend, and we have a great relationship.
Good girl. She's so good.
But when Randy leaves Sage alone in the house, all hell breaks loose.
can't leave anything out. She ate this, she ate that, she ate glass, she ate wax. She used to chew on extension cords.
It wasn't because Sage was hungry, so Randy took Sage to Steve Diller, an animal behaviorist in New York.
Good girl.
So, Randy, how's it been going at home with Sage?
You know, she has her days where she's all right, but typically the barking, the chewing, getting into the garbage.
When Randy sent her home videotape of Sage, I was a little bit shocked at how severe the dog's reaction was.
And she was just up there barking and barking and barking as if she was calling me back. How can I, it's more of a howl. It's more of a like a, oh, come back, you know, that kind of thing.
She's stressed.
It's almost, like I said, it's like she knew. She knew I was still there. So...
It was obvious that Sage had separation anxiety. She was so deeply attached to her owner that it terrified her to be left alone.
Okay, you just going out of the building. I'm going to go this way. See what her reaction is like.
The therapist tried different methods to help Sage become less anxious when separated from Randy.
Not so bad, much better.
Oh, Sage, sit.
That's it. Just make her do it. Just and now praise. Good
That's
sit.
a
Good
good
girl.
sit.
That's it.
Good girl.
All right, try to stay again.
Sage, stay.
Okay, now back away from her. Drop the leash.
Treating Sage is a slow process involving obedience training and medication.
Oh, yes. What a good girl. Kisses.
She loves her owner loves her. We're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. I'm sure this is going to be okay.
Dinner, good girl? Yeah? You want your dinner? Okay. It's a full-time job to work with her, and I'm ready for it. She's worth it to me. She's my best friend. She's my baby.
Such good kisses. You give the best ones.
Coming up, an enduring tale of friendship and loyalty when Wild Discovery continues.
Sometimes when communication breaks down, a dog ends up on the street. This may look like a day at the beach with the family, but these dogs in Chile are on their own, abandoned. They scavenge around human camps, much as their wild ancestors once did. They have no family except one another. They steal to live. The pack has become their life, and they've reverted to ancient habits. It happens everywhere. Italy, for instance, has 800,000 feral dogs living in wild packs. They regard people with apprehension, as did their ancestors. As their old instincts resurface, some of them may attack domestic animals. But on the other side of the world, one feral dog with a reputation as a sheep killer may soon be protected. Aborigines introduced the semi-domesticated dingo to Australia at least 8,000 years ago. The dingo, which evolved from the Indian wolf, soon reverted to the wild. Like all dogs, dingoes are opportunists. They'll prey on emus, eggs, or almost anything else. They've spread across Australia from the tropics to the arid interior. But persecution by ranchers now threatens their survival. As always, our emotional connection to dogs is deep and ambiguous. We fear them as killers, and we love them as loyal friends. The relationship is uncomplicated, especially in the stories we tell about dogs, like the one about Greyfriars Bobby. Bobby was a Skye Terrier belonging to a policeman named Grey in Edinburgh, Scotland in the 1850s. Back then, police on the beat were required to keep a watchdog, and a terrier was an economical choice, if not particularly fearsome. Bobby followed Constable Grey on his daily rounds. But in 1858, his master died of tuberculosis. Confused and alone, the young dog waited by the coffin. Next day, Bobby walked in the funeral cortege.
Man that is born of a woman is of few days and full of trouble. He comes forth like a flower and withers. He flees like a shadow and continues.
Constable Grey was laid to rest in Greyfriars churchyard, and the grave was closed in, to be forgotten, except by Bobby.
I am alive forevermore. Amen.
Refusing to abandon his master, he returned to lie on the grave day after day, in all weather. The neighbors began to feed the dog. Bobby continued to keep his vigil at his master's grave for 14 years, until his own death in 1872. Then Bobby was buried at Greyfriars too, and a statue was erected to commemorate such loyalty. At its best, the relationship between dog and human makes the heart leap. Theirs and ours both. world where it sometimes seems that no one understands us, we like to think that at least dogs do.
To purchase a home video of the program you just saw, call now to order. For only $19.95 plus shipping and